going on? Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, man. I'm so excited about today's show. Man, I'm back in. I was off last week. But hey, we back again. You know, Happy New Year's to everybody. And man, this year is going by, it's doing its thing. And I just wanted to say thank you guys for your continued support. I really, really do appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you guys do and support with this. And we're on episode 70. Episode 7. And I was like, wow, man. And as I think about it, it is truly a blessing to keep this thing going. But not only though that it's a blessing to keep this thing going, I'm blessed to have my mans with me. I got him back. I had to bring him back onto the show. Kevin Lassiter, man, all the way over there in Arizona, bro. Hey, you want to trade some of this weather? Because today it didn't warm up, but it's still a negative. Hold on, let me check. I'm going to check because it was a negative 13 earlier today. It went down to -2. Now it's back up to a -8 right now. So you want to trade some of that with me?
No, sir. I left Kansas last year, and the day I drove away, it was -12. And I said, I never want to see a number below 0 again.
Hey, well, you went to the right place for Arizona, man. I'm just sharing this like I usually do. So I want to share this with a few people. Make sure you share it. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We're looking forward to this conversation. I'm telling you, tonight going to be one of those conversations that you don't want to miss. And I say that a lot, but the night conversation, I think, is going to be very, very enlightening and helpful with a lot of people that with just different stages in their lives and things that they're going through. Because guess what? This 4-letter word called life happens with everybody. So we can try to fake the funk like everything is together, but the 4-letter word called life happens to everybody. And this topic tonight impacts everybody in the aspect of everybody has to deal with themselves. You got to deal with yourself more than you deal with anybody else ever created on this earth. So I want to share this one more time, and then we'll be jump right into it. So what's been going on with you, man? How's the new year been treating you, lad?
The new year been pretty good. Just continuing to learn this new position I work in, and just keeping the family taken care of. It's interesting because my kids are growing so much. I'm learning a lot about them and how they're developing. So more of my time has been focused in on family versus a lot of social and outside things this year.
So yeah, man. So because guess what? Them kids grow up, bro. Hey,
yes, sir.
And look, and the funny thing is, a lot of people don't know, man. Our history, we go way back, man. Way back to 2003.
2004.
Yeah. 2004.
2005, yeah.
2004. I'm sorry, 2004, 2005. And your oldest, your daughter Sam, me and her share the same birthday. She was born on my birthday.
That's right.
And me and your wife was featured on my album that I had, my last album I released, A Conversation. So you guys get on there. It's called I Believe. Her spoken word is phenomenal. She's off the chain. She got 3 books now out?
3, yep.
3 books out, doing her thing. And, we got a lot of history, man, a lot of respect for you. A lot of respect for you and your family. But when you start talking about them kids, man, Robert graduates this year, bro.
Wow. I still like
he graduates, and he was born in 2004.
Right.
So when you got there, matter of fact, when did you get there in 2004?
I got there. It was the end of the year. It was the very end of the year.
Robert was about 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
6-7 months old, because we had just got back.
Right.
You're right.
I just got back.
Out of employment. He was born March 15th, and he getting ready to graduate high school now, bro.
Wow. If that don't make you feel old, I don't know what will.
Hey, when you talk about feeling old and hit this, so next month on the 18th, I hit 22 years in the Army. 22. Okay,
well, congratulations on that. That's big in itself.
Yeah, so man, I'm gonna get some comments. Got my big bro tuning in. My brother Obi. What's up? What's going on, big bro? Good evening. My classmates tuning in. Hello, Greensboro, Chandrilla class of 98 representing. Shout out to my mama, because I know she hate 9-8, but 9-8, we love each other because we all grew up together. But man, we got Montia tuning in from California all the way. Jackson State alum in the house. Want to give you a shout out. Had some real good conversations working together back on Fort Gordon. But man, tonight conversation is one that I really look forward to. I'm really excited about, having, man, because it was something that I really stood out to me, and I shared with you. I'm about to share it in a minute. But what's going on here? But how you doing, man? Good to see you. Hey, I wanted to talk about it because you have made a post about being transparent and going through the process of learning to forgive yourself, right? And I would tell you, man, that stood out to me because this is like in my mind, I was just thinking about what I was going to talk about. And when I saw that, like a red light went off, like boom. It was like, man, let me reach out to him. And I reached out to you and you agreed to come on, man. And I just wanted to talk about it because there's freedom. And I'm talking about the freedom of learning to forgive yourself from your choices. Mm-hmm. And there's a freedom in that because unforgiveness in of itself, even with other people, really there's an imprisonment that's tied to unforgiveness. And I know unforgiveness, when we start talking about forgiving folks and dealing with unforgiveness, and I'm coming from a biblical perspective, and if we talk about forgive those, it's hard for a lot of people to do that because we feel as if we're giving somebody a pass for a wrong that they did to us.
Right.
So to get back at them. You see what I'm saying? The natural urge is to make them feel what they made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and I just want to really stay on that before we switch to the forgiveness part, but the unforgiveness. Because and I'm not trying to act like, bruh, that's a struggle everybody deal with. Look, you do me wrong, bro. I'm telling you right now. No, this is not like, because a lot of times we like to sugarcoat stuff. Like it's not a reality. Like, no, it's a reality. It's real. A lot of this hurt, a lot of stuff people to deal with is real.
Right.
This not no social media stuff. I'm talking about stuff that scarred people for life, that hurt them for life. People do stuff to you, and then you talking about forgiving them. Like, bro, no, I'm gonna carry this. They gonna feel me. You ever been to that point? You ever dealt with that, lad?
Yeah, I've dealt with that where you're hurt and you sitting in it, you basking in it, and all you can think about is making somebody else feel the same way you felt, and that becomes fuel. Now that could be helpful in certain arenas, but in other arenas, and I'm gonna be honest, in most arenas outside of maybe athletics, it's toxic.
Well, I would say this. And I'm glad that you say it can be helpful because a lot of people use that as fuel to drive. I'm reminded when you said that, my mind went to the X-Men, right? And I'm going back, and it is going to be this. I'm a Marvel dude, so I've seen all of them, right?
Right.
But in the capacity of this is the one where they had went back to the younger Professor X and Magneto.
Okay.
And Magneto had came to Professor X's house, and he was trying to get him. He was trying to use his anger. His anger was driving the power of his magnetic power before.
Right.
He was able to do a lot of things, but Professor X was trying to get him to tap into the positive stuff, not the negative. And when he tapped into the positive things, he was able to do a lot. His power increased a lot more. And that's why I talked about with unforgiveness really being an imprisonment, even though you can accomplish things by being fueled by it, but it still leaves you at a deficit yourself, if that makes sense.
No, you're right. And if you do that for too long, even though you may be winning on the outside, it slowly degrades you inside.
Yes. And we can accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
But still fail. And I shared with you earlier about Steve Francis. And he shared about his stuff, the stuff that he was going through, and never had any outlet, never had anything to really deal with it, and how he was able to not really go so far the ledge, but he had a dark place. He was at a dark place. And you try to find when you at that place, and when you carry an unforgiveness, when you carry things that are unforgiveness with other people and yourself, it leads you to a place of darkness. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about it. And one of the biggest things is the imprisonment of unforgiveness is, it's almost as if you're expecting somebody else to feel something that they, no matter if they did it to you, they can never feel that. They will never feel what you felt in that moment. They won't.
Right, because you don't know what emotionally or mentally was driving them to do what they did to you, and different things affect people in different ways. So it's almost a fruitless effort when you try to, swing that double-edged sword. I'm gonna make them feel what they felt to me, because it may not affect them at all.
How many have you ever found out that you did something to somebody that like hurt them or whatever, and you ain't even have a clue that you did it?
Yeah, it's happened to me years later down the line. Somebody told me, "Oh, you said this to me," and when you said it, it hurt my feelings. And all you can do is go back and think. I mean, if you didn't mean to do it, and if it was unintentional, of course you can apologize. But again, that just shows that people on different wavelengths. You may say something, and to you, it's a regular statement, but for that person, it's a punch in the gut that hurt.
And they carried it for years, and you didn't even have a clue. You living your life. So how can they make it? How can they make you feel how they felt when initially it wasn't even your intent to make them feel that way? You just made a statement, but they carried that themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's why I say that's where the imprisonment come in. And imprisonment is the other person is living rent-free in your mind and your heart. And you may be using them as motivation to do things, but they're taking up space where you can free that space up to do other things. Want to get Priscilla? What's going on, Priscilla? She said she's tuning in from Tuscaloosa, Greensboro, back home. But they're living rent free. And man, I would tell you that it is the older I get, it is nothing like. And being in the military, we move a lot, right? There's nothing like having space to better organize things. And I put it like that.
Right. I agree with you.
And a lot of us, we even spend money to get access to extra space to organize things. That's if it's organized. So why wouldn't we want to have extra space in our own minds to put things in there where we need to put things and organize them in ways instead of allowing somebody else to take up that space? It's just like this. It's like you got somebody, matter of fact, you got a garage. You letting somebody else store their stuff in your garage, and you paying a storage fee to put your stuff in the storage fee.
Right. It just don't make sense. It's hustling backwards. It's backwards.
It's backwards. And that's why I want to talk about the freedom in learning to forgive yourself. Because first of all, I say this, last year, 2021 was a year for me where I really we talked about this a little bit before the show, but I want to say this now. One of the hardest things about forgiving yourself is, in order to forgive yourself, you got to first learn you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a process, bro.
It is. And the good thing, but bad thing about it is that the more you get to learn yourself and you get to digging into who you really are, you're going to uncover some things about yourself that you don't really like. And then it becomes that adds on to your process of learning yourself, because you have to learn how are you going to address these things about yourself that you don't like. Yes.
And I like how you said that. You have to come up with a strategy of how you're going to address yourself.
Right. And that's been my current position that I'm in, where I feel like I'm standing up on a hilltop and I'm looking over my life replaying on the ground below me. And I'm looking at incidents. I don't like the way I handled that. I don't like the way this went down. I should have this different. I should have did that different. And you can't change what you did, but if you learn this one train of thought manifested itself in multiple different situations, then you got to change that train of thought. And that's the hard part, because at our age, you've been doing this for 3 decades, 4 decades. And it becomes difficult to change when that becomes your normal. But it's a process you got to take. It's a journey you got to take.
So, man, and I use this, and I've been talking about healing on this show for the past year, and just going through this process. And what you just said took my mind to in the Bible, where the story of the man that was at the pool of Bethesda, and Jesus asked him. He didn't ask him. The guy was waiting. They didn't say particularly what his illness was, and I'm glad that they didn't say that, but they just say that he was lame. And lame, you can interpret that as, he was wounded. He had, it was something going on with him. But a lot of us are wounded emotionally. A lot of us are wounded from things, traumatized from things that happened to us as kids, things outside of our control. And he was there waiting on other people to put him in the pool when the angel of the Lord came down. Mm-hmm. Now, the Bible said that he was there for 38 years, bro. 38 years. He was there. And I spoke one time on the topic. I said that he was at the right place at the right time with the wrong mentality. And I said with the right place at the right time with wrong mentality was he was expecting others to assist him with his wound. And when he encountered with God, God didn't say nothing about nobody else. He didn't tell him to get into the pool. He just said, take up your bed and walk. Mm-hmm. And that bed is symbolic of what we identify by. Because you know what I'm saying? That just like you said, when you go back and you take an inventory of stuff, take an inventory of things in your life, you're like, wait a minute, I ain't like that. But a lot of times what happens is we know we don't like it, but we're not willing to take it up to address it.
Right.
And his healing came in his encounter with God and the actions that he did to take his bed up. And I just wanted to just say that because you hit on a very valid point, man, about just, the process that you're in now and just really working towards addressing those things. Because that takes courage, bro.
Yeah, it is definitely something that you have to be brave enough to look at it, and you got to be open enough to face it and be real with yourself. And I got an aunt used to say, yeah, I know I'm crazy because I talk to myself and I answer myself too. But you have to have them internal conversations when you're reflecting with the intent of trying to better yourself, trying to understand why did I do this thing? What made me think this way? How can I change and analyze my thought process to not keep myself in these same loops that you find yourself in through life?
Man, I would tell you one of the things that is so helpful with that is when you start talking about that, it's getting to that place to where when you're willing to with yourself, it really helps you become reflective. And when you're reflective, it increases your gratitude for those that have endured the journey with you.
That is super true. And that's another thing that made me make the post I made, because you look at how your actions affected those around you. And it definitely just for me, it makes me appreciate my wife so much more, because through life, I did a lot of different things that had some emotional shrapnel that she got impacted from, you know, and so it does make you appreciate those around you, but it also gives you empathy for others who may be walking down the same path you walked as well.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring that up, man, because it impacts others around us more. And a lot of times when we are not introspective and we're not to gain that perspective, we can be hurting those that God has blessed us to walk the journey with us. And we can even push them away subconsciously or knowingly or unknowingly. We push them away. Why? Because we refuse to deal with our emotional garbage, our emotional I ain't gonna say garbage, but our emotional baggage.
Right.
That 9 times out of 10, the people that we are punishing had nothing to do with the cause of it.
You're 100% correct. You on it. You on it.
And the greatest thing about that's why I say the freedom with that is it helps you appreciate them more, so your actions toward them becomes even more endeared towards them. Hey, thank you for putting up with me. Like seriously, like, bro, thank you. Like you ain't had to do that. I'm sorry. Like seriously, I'm sorry. And we don't even know what healing that does for the other person,
because they could privately be holding on to things that you impacted them with, and you acknowledging that you did something to impact them can help them release some stuff they carry.
Yeah, and that's why I talk about the freedom of learning to forgive yourself from your choices, because the things that you talked about, and I'm gonna share some things too, but the things you talked about was your choices. I ain't talking about what somebody else did to you, because what tends to happen, man, is I've seen it a lot. People go through stuff, man. People deal with. I'm talking about grow up in situations. Things happen. I even talk at length about my issue with my dad. My dad was there for us. He was always there for us, but we didn't have the relationship that I wanted to have with my father.
Right.
Because he was a pastor. He was doing other things for other people, and I felt he could have did more with interacting with me. And what God allowed me to see is he allowed my father to see the error in what he did, allow us to rekindle our relationship and blossom our relationship, but he gave him a second chance through his grandchildren that he maximized. I mean, to the fullest, he maximized. To the point where it healed me by seeing his efforts towards his grandkids, because they had what I wanted from him.
Well, that in itself is powerful, and you got to have the right frame of mind when viewing that, because if you view it in a lens of healing and looking at his growth and recognizing it, is great. Some people may view it and may get jealous when you weren't this kind of dad with me, but I think you learn how to be a good grandfather because of what you learn from being a father.
And what you said something earlier, it gives you perspective on, you don't judge other people. And the reason why I say that is God helped me, and I'm saying this because God helped me through breaking down taking me through the psychological stairwell of that situation. And what really gave me solace is I knew that it wasn't intentional, or my dad's efforts towards me wasn't malice. Even though the impact was the same, his efforts towards me wasn't malice. So that helped eliminate that he didn't intentionally meant to do me wrong. I just didn't get what I had a right to feel like I should have gotten from him. At the time, he didn't know. Once he recognized it, then I saw him change. I saw his whole demeanor change. It started with I started to see the change my senior year when I went to college in '98. My nephew, Jordan, my oldest nephew, Jordan Michael, you tell my brother Michael Jordan fan, right? His name Jordan Michael. But I saw the effort and the energy with him. Then I seen when my niece was born, I seen the same thing. And then when my son was born, bro, it was like, bro, like, who is that dude? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it was so freeing for me because in that aspect, I had made choices to compensate for the hurt that I had towards my father in my life. So that helped me learn to forgive myself from my choices that I made, that I was not forgiving myself from.
Right. And one thing, I'm glad you brought up the point of fatherhood and watching it. One thing that's helped me is looking at my life through the lens of fatherhood. When I look at my son, a lot of your things about you rub off on your children as a result of them being around you. It's kind of environmental, the way they grow up. And so recognizing that, hey, my son acts just like I do, and not liking the stuff in me, now I don't like it in him. So it makes me become a better father because I have to address those issues in him. I realized something probably 2 or 3 days ago. It was like, you know what? One of your missions in life is to correct the damage you've done by keeping your son from doing the same things. It's basically saying, hey, look, you made some choices that went this way and that way, and it's not my dad's fault, but I can help my son avoid some of the same pitfalls. And so I'm taking on that role very seriously, but also trying to identify what negative traits of myself have rubbed off into him, and then addressing them with myself and helping him to change his methods and patterns as well.
Man, you just said something that, so I'm about to deep dive in this one, Lack. So that is so powerful because you're working to correct the damage or correct the behavior that caused the damage. I watched the on HBO Max, they got that DMX documentary. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't yet, but I definitely need to check it out.
Yeah. So they talked, it was like his last tour, and they just, they showed him, it was raw. He was showing DMX raw, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because when we run away from dealing with ourselves, we can receive accolades, assuming the person we go to, or our persona we go to cope with it. So like DMX, and I'll say this is for me, this is from my observation, right? DMX always seemed as an oxymoron. He talked about the dark, deep, dark, the dark and the deep, and then the next thing you know, he praying and talking about how good God is, right? And if you look at it, it's like, dang, that's an oxymoron. But I think for me honestly, I think him praying, DMX had an anointing. That's why he had people draw to him. The difference is he connected to the hurt and that persona of the hurt of Dark Man X, because guess what? That got him the attention. That got him the accolades. But it never forced him to deal with the reality of what the root cause. And based off of what it is, and I saw it, and you'll see it in the documentary. They was asking him an interview. It was an interview. The lady was asking him some random interview, and she had asked him about his mama and his relationship with his mom. Mm-hmm. When she asked him that question, like, his whole countenance changed. And you can see there was so much hurt there because it talked about, how his mom used to beat them and all this stuff. And then how he ended up getting put in an institution. He never healed from that, bro.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And we can make choices all our own. And that's why I love what Eric Thomas said. Your pain may not have been your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And you talking about, and that's the scary part of it, bro, because you're there and you're allowed to see it right now with your son. I see it with my son. And one thing I had to learn through fatherhood lens was, and I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and I called my son's mother, and I had a conversation where I said, until he accepts the fact that he's a lot like me, that's when he's really going to understand how different he is from me.
I get that.
Bro, I struggle with that because look, growing up, man, I ain't want to be no done preacher like my daddy. Bro, I'm telling you, folks used to call me Little Rail. Bro, I'm like, I ain't no done Rail. My name Robert. I used to get mad, man, like mad. And I realize like now I sit back like with the sarcasm, with the dad jokes, like I'm so much like my dad, like so much, but I'm so different from my dad at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I used to fight that, and I know I used to fight not wanting to be like that. But when I embraced that, that is who my father is. That's a lot that I get it from. I started to accept the things that I'm different with, which helped me in that process. But man, like when you talking about seeing yourself in your child and not liking that, but then the reality is you learn that they got it from you.
Right. So you can't be but so upset or bothered with them because you gave it to them. One thing that a thing that I came up with a couple years ago, and I say it a lot, I may have said it the last time I was here on your show, was that we may be our father's sons, but we don't have to commit our father's sins.
Yes.
And a part of that is realizing when your son is about to commit yours.
Yep.
You know, we know the things that our dads may have been champions over, but we also know what they struggled in. And like I said, some of that stuff rubs off. If you spent time around your dad, some positive and some negative rubs off. I've done a decent job of keeping away from the major things that have been some of my father's challenges, but there's some other things that were his challenges that I think I have brought into my life, and I got to correct them in me so my son doesn't have to get it. It's one of those breaking that generational curse of certain things. And for some families, it's alcoholism or drug addiction or aggressive behavior. For others, it's depression, it's paranoia, it's many different mental things that you deal with. And so recognizing what those things are and recognizing where they come from and what the triggers are will help you begin to eliminate those things from your life.
And you start to understand the why behind a lot of stuff. That's why it's so important to start dealing with that stuff and dealing with you. I realized something, man. I was talking with my mom, and then understanding your history, the real history, not the stuff that you want, like that real stuff. Mm-hmm. Like on my mom's side, both of my grandparents was adopted, man.
Wow.
My grandmother was adopted by family because her parents died.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was really given up by my great-grandmother because she was in an abusive situation. And the guy was abusive towards my granddaddy. And the people that adopted him, Players and Lil Mama, they couldn't have kids. But it was like a perfect thing because they had the love that my grandfather needed.
Right.
And to the point, man, where, and I know my granddaddy, he went through his thing, but I can tell the process of forgiveness. The same guy that used to be abusive towards my grandfather took him in before he died and wouldn't let him go to the nursing home.
So
I'm talking about abusive, like used to take his food, give it to the dog, have him sleep underneath the house on hay.
Wow.
And he better than me.
Yeah, that's hard to that's hard.
Listen,
I'm let all that go. That's difficult.
Hey, be like on what's that? The Diary of a Mad Black Woman when she had to go back and take care of him.
Right. He was catching the worst of everything. It's funny you say that because when you look at analyzing your experiences and what you've been through, when we look at what other people have done to us, there's a quote that says holding a grudge is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But when you look at forgiveness for your own choices, sometimes you drinking the poison and you just keep sipping it and it's killing you. And you're not recognizing that this decision is killing you. This thing is sitting inside of you and it's eating away at the inside of you. And you may not see the effects of it on the outside, but it's eating away on you inside. So what making that post and the train of thought that I made, and even this conversation here is leading me to, is that don't hold grudges with yourself, because you're literally poking yourself in the eye. You're beating yourself up and you're hurting yourself for what purpose? What purpose? How can you heal when you keep picking that same wound?
And the other thing to it is when we make choices, those choices are finite.
Yes.
We can't go back and change it. We can't. Only thing we can do is we can learn from those choices and make better choices in the future. Like, and I'm not saying this in the capacity of, if you do wrong to somebody, you should go work to make it right with them. In the capacity of something that's reasonable.
Right.
Like, and I say that because some people ain't gonna forgive you, but if you go to them to make it right and they don't want to listen, you did your part and you just move on. Don't be sitting there and subjecting yourself to mistreatment because they don't want to they don't want to have a change of heart. But when you make a decision, what I had to learn, bro, is because we can look at things, especially, man, like I look back over my life. There's a lot of things I've accomplished, but there's a whole heap of bunch of things that I've made some bad decisions, bad choices on that I can't go back and change. I can't. I used to be upset at myself for not getting my degree. Like I flunked out of college, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Initially I was enrolled at Alabama A&M for 3 semesters. I left there, and I'm ashamed. Well, I ain't ashamed to say it because it was me. It was my choices to not go to class. But, bruh, my GPA, I was 3 semesters of going to college, lad. I was able to transfer 6 college credits. Wow. 6. My GPA was a 0.539 that I raised up to a 0.54 to make me feel better.
But again, that decision and the effects of it then in your life probably triggered something that helped you later in life, right?
Oh yeah, it triggered. If that wasn't me, I wouldn't have joined the military.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But also too, the solace that I got with that is the decision that I made only impacted me because my parents didn't pay a dime for my college education. So the thing with that is I made that decision. That was the outcome, and in that moment, I made another decision to take another route.
Reminds me of myself in high school. I pretty much did the same thing my senior year of high school, where I just was like, you know what, something bad happened, and I was like, I ain't going to class. And I just the whole like midway through the first half of the year, through the end of the school year, I just like I ain't going no more. I'd go to school and not go to class, which was stupid. I still don't understand why I did it. It just was dumb. But long story short, it caused me to have to go and repeat the second half of the 12th grade. And I had to change schools and the whole 9 yards. But that gave me a respect for education. And it showed me if I go and I really focus on just do it, then I can excel at it. But I have to be mentally willing to do it. And that experience fueled me into college.
So, and I'm glad that you brought that up because the key is you were able to put the action toward, you were willing to put the action towards to bring a better outcome from the choices you made. Mm-hmm. You didn't sit there and blame other people. I didn't sit there and blame other people why I didn't go to class. I put it like this, lad. I was preoccupied with extracurricular activity
right
during the nocturnal time of the day. I was just
like I'm talking like a bloodhound.
hey, so I'm just saying, but I took ownership of it. And when you talk about learning to forgive yourself, you got to take ownership of that you made that decision.
Yes.
It don't matter about it does not matter about any other variables or anybody else or what they contributed to it. What influences that came that you made that decision.
I'm glad we're talking about this and decisions and the consequences of it, because 3, 4, 5 things could happen off of the first choice you make. And a good analogy of this, and I don't know if you talked about this in one of your past episodes or not, is I see that. Yeah. Is look at the Antonio Brown situation. You know, look at that situation. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but in the beginning, he kept saying, well, the team did this and they wanted to make me go in the game and blah, blah, blah. It was all what everybody else did. And I want to say this past week, he gave a statement where he finally said, you know what? I probably didn't handle that situation as professionally or as well as I should have. So it took him.
He still ain't taking it. He's working towards it.
But he's going towards it. But look at we talking about this happened 3 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, and it took him 3 weeks to get to a place where now he's willing to admit his role in it. And I don't think he'll get another chance in the NFL to fix it. But hopefully in life he will learn you can't just react off of that impulse. You got to think for a second and be a little more strategic in what you do and how you move forward.
Man, I watch Skip and Shannon all the time, and Shannon Sharp said it best, man. Uncle Shay Sharp said, he said this. He said, I'm not arguing about the injury piece. He said NFL got protocol where if you hurt, you tell the personal trainer, they tell the coach.
Right.
He said, nothing excuse the actions that you left.
Exactly.
He said, if you had just left the field with your jersey on, if you had just left the field, people would have been like, oh man, he going back to get some check or whatever.
Right.
But then the other thing, the other side to that too, and this is what I'm talking about. I'm glad we on this, talking about how foolish we can look with blaming other people when we control our own actions in there. But how he was talking about he's not getting the ball and he needed a certain amount of catches to make a bonus. Bro, he got suspended for 3 games for putting the fake COVID.
That is my biggest argument to anybody who tries to take his side and say, look, he made a decision 3 weeks before this and he lost all them games. He probably wouldn't even been in the position of chasing those incentives if he would have played those 3 games, or it would have been a shorter gap that he had between getting the money and not getting the money if he hadn't missed those games. So, but to me, that's the key decision that led to all of this.
And the freedom, when we talk about freedom to learn to forgive yourself, is when you take ownership of it. You and I like the term that you use. You minimize or you mitigate the emotional shrapnel that impacts those close around us.
Right. Because think about people that love him, his parents or his children, or it can't feel good to have everybody in sports media calling your dad or your brother or your son crazy.
Yeah,
that's not a good feeling, whether you're close to him or not. And I know it's not good for him either.
Yeah, and I want to bring it down to a personal level. Like when we dealing with, I don't think that, I'll say this. When we choose to not forgive ourselves, we're being selfish. And I brought it up and I posted this the other week, but it said, choosing yourself at the expense of yourself is selfless. Choosing yourself at the expense of others is selfish. Because at the expense, and what the key word is, the expense. When we choose to walk in unforgiveness, those that are close around us will be impacted by your decision.
It's impossible for them not to.
It's impossible. Your kids will be impacted because you're not walking, and you're walking wounded. Right. And it's almost like you get a batch of oranges, and one of the oranges is molded, it's spoiled, and it spreads to the other oranges who are good, but because they're connected to it, they get impacted as well. And that's how those quote unquote generational curses go. That's why it becomes so hard, and difficult at times to really peel that onion back, because guess what? I'm so connected, and it's connected to all these people. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to you, and once you take ownership of you and your choices, you're disconnecting yourself from potentially giving whatever that the hurt from whatever that is. You're protecting other people, and you're cocooning yourself while you heal, so it won't be spread to other folks.
Right. And that if you ever have a friend or a loved one that's going through that, one of the best things you can do is recognize, first off, that person has to communicate that they're in a process. And then you recognize what they're dealing with and give them the space to do that. I know I kind of quarter myself off at times to say, hey, I'm battling something. Let me work it out so that I don't lash out or I don't do something inadvertently that hurts someone. I think that's important to do that. However, there's a flip side to that too, that you in isolating yourself, you may be pushing family members away that could help you and love on you. But it's a balance. It's all about a balance.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because communicating that, hey, you're actually going through something, it's communicating that instead of you taking it out on people who trying to be there and be there for you, but you lashing out to them because they're trying to be there for you because you want some space and time to yourself, but you don't know how to communicate to them.
Right.
Because and a lot of times those that are close to you can help you identify what areas you need help in.
This is true. Funny thing is, my mom will always because I'm a person I'm a big social media person, so I will say what I'm thinking about or what I'm dealing with on social media. And my mother, in the last couple of years, now she's on Facebook, so she'll call me. Hey, you can call me when you got stuff going on. And for her, she sees me using social media and she feels a way about it. And she's like, she would rather me call her than make a social media post about it. However, that's a part of my healing process and my thought process. But because she knows what can help me, she reaches out. So either way it helps to have people around you to be able to recognize when you're in a place and try to help you get out of it.
So, how much is, because a lot of things, man, when we start talking about forgiveness, unforgiveness, and healing, a lot of times it's very personal to people and private to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we don't maximize the ability, the effectiveness of it, because we want it to be too private instead of connecting with people that have the training or the insight to help you, unpack that stuff. So how much I know with me and mine, like, bruh, like Military One Source is a resource to us with counselors and people. Like, bro, I call them and set up appointments so people can talk. And there's people that I don't even know. I remember when I was in last year, and when I got to Leavenworth, I was having a moment myself, and I had a lady. She called me every Wednesday. She called. We sit down and we talked about stuff. We talked about 6 weeks.
Right.
Just talked about just random stuff. It was just helped me. It helped me be able to package things and put things in perspective. And how do you feel about, having that external support instead of always trying to do things internal or by your individually or in-house?
So I'm glad you said that because I'm one of them people who in the past thought I could fix everything. I know me and I can fix all my own stuff. And within the last, let's say, 12 months, I realized some of these things that I've been dealing with, I don't have the ability to fix. And in my community, in we got told, well, just pray. Well, you pray that God give you a way to deal with this. And it's not that it's going to be some magical hand that comes and just takes it away overnight. You wake up tomorrow and it's gone. No, he's going to put resources in your life. One of those resources is these external people, counselors, therapists, people who you can talk to that can listen to what you're dealing with and then give you ways to cope with it. I think that that's something that, especially in the African-American community, we are just now really accepting of it and taking advantage of it. And it's important. It's important. So, for myself, I have recently started going to get professional help to help me understand all these different things that I deal with, understand the whys and understand this the type of person I was dealing with, and that's why it affected me this way. Like I recently learned that my personality type is the anti of a narcissist. So if I come in contact with a narcissist, we're going to butt heads. And then some of the actions that interactions I've had with narcissists 5, 10, 15 years ago, I still have emotional scars from them. Yeah. I didn't know that until I went and talked to somebody. I would have never known that. I just know if I meet somebody, I don't like this. I just don't like this person. Well, that type of person has a name. They're called a narcissist. And that just doesn't rub well with you. So there are steps, there are things you can do to control your reaction to the interactions you have with them. And I think that's what you get from outside sources is you get more tools in your toolkit to be able to address situations when they come up.
It helps you identify your triggers, man.
Exactly. And the same thing happened, when my wife and I went through a journey of going through therapy and counseling, we learned each other's triggers. We learned that if I say this, it pushes this button, which elicits this response, and you might not like it.
So and that's why I've been a huge advocate for it. I would tell you my endorsement comes from my situation when I came back from deployment in 2007, going through a divorce, single dad, I was at a space where it was just like, man, I ain't know the one day from the other, and I was just surviving.
Right.
And it got to the point to where I felt overwhelmed, and I felt like a failure. I felt like that. I felt the shame. I felt like, man, this same person who always kind of had a sense of self, sense that could figure things out, I couldn't. And man, I remember going to counseling and at Fort Gordon. I remember going to the doctor, psychologist, and one thing that really helped me with all of that, bro, it was like I was like, bro, why didn't I do this months ago? Right. Why didn't I just go and talk? And the talking, what I learned is it helps you, and it's just certain questions. It was just certain things. One of the things that it helped me, he helped me put perspective. I was putting so much pressure on myself at the time. about a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, a lot of my goals, and then that thing happened to me, and I was like, oh, this, that, and the third, and I'm worrying about what could happen, not what is happening. He put things in perspective. And I remember in school, he had asked me a question, and this is something that stick with me. He said, what do you call a person that graduates bottom of their class in medical school?
An army doctor?
No, he said you call him a doctor.
Yeah.
He said you met the requirements.
Right.
You know, he said these are the requirements to be that. You met the requirements. Why are you worrying about if you was number one or if you was this, that, and the third? And I was like, I really needed to hear that at the time. And it really helped me process some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it also showed me that I wasn't the only person that go through it. Like, bro, he called me and I was talking to about 3-4 other dudes that was going through the same similar situation I was going through.
Right.
And it helped me realize, like, I'm not the only one. So I'm not crazy. And, you know, and it helped me on my path to recovering out of that situation. And I'm grateful for it. But I say, you know, there's freedom. Once you learn to forgive yourself about stuff, you let go of that weight. You know, it's like, we both in the military. You've been on that long march and you got that 60, 50 pound back and you get it and you get there and you can let that thing go. Man.
And your back goes,
like, you know the one where you lay down and you're still on your back, but you relieved it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what it's like. It's a freedom that's tied to that. There's an imprisonment when you choose not to forgive. And then forgiving yourself is realizing that you got to take ownership of the why behind why you made that choice.
Mm. Yep. And it can hurt you, but
yeah,
don't run away from it because there's something good at the end of the trail.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing, because we try to justify stuff. That's why I said eliminate everybody else outside of it. And you take ownership of why you made that. That's one of my pet peeves, especially with my kids, is why did you do it? I don't know. Bruh, that take me to a whole, listen, if you don't know why you did it, why did you do it? Like, it's a why behind it. Well, I just wanted to. Okay, we'll address that. But I thought it was cool to do. Because when we look back on the decision that we made before, we can relate to that.
It's funny you say that. So I found myself in a position a lot lately where I'm talking to younger people who are dealing with different issues in their lives. And some of these things have been things that I've experienced. So they're coming to me out of, kind of the same way I see you as a mentor or a big brother kind of figure. And when you see somebody walking on the same path you walk down, I've had to ask them the questions. Well, what made you do this? What was you thinking when you did this? And when they begin to, well, it was this, third party, this thing. And I said, no. I said, okay, I had the same experience you had. And when I go back and look at it, I did what you did because I could. I thought I could get away with it. I thought nobody would know. It made me feel good. It fulfilled some fantasy I had. It scratched some itch I had. Whatever the thing may be, it's because of me. So now go back and look at your situation and tell me why you did it. And when you can give it to them in that text, it helps them. But more importantly, having those conversations is helping me to free myself of some of the other stuff I'm carrying around. Because like you just said, you realize you're not the only person that's made these decisions. You're not the only person that's been in this situation. But the good part is that you are now in someone else's life and you can help them recover in maybe a way that wasn't available to you at the time you were dealing with it.
Man, I'll tell you, when I went through what I went through that time, like 2007, 2008, I remember you reached out to me and was like, bruh, I don't know how you doing it.
Right. I just remember the brief exposure I had with you at that time. Because I think I was down there for school while you were stationed at Fort Gordon. And so I was there maybe 2 months and just saw some of it. And it was just like, man, I don't know how he doing it. And because just me knowing myself, I'd have snapped. I'd have went off, said something, done something, might have been in jail. Who knows what bad could happen.
Listen, man, I'll just tell you like this. I wasn't good. I had a good game face on, but internally, man, it was a struggle. And I can remember the wisdom. I'm gonna be transparent now. I remember the wisdom that God gave me when I first got back. I went to get my car, and because I flew into Alabama, my dad was driving me to get my car, and on my way there, the Holy Spirit said, "Call the police." I called the police, let them know my situation. It was like, "Hey, I'm going. I just got back from Iraq. This is my situation. This is why I please will ask that you provide some people there."
Right.
Because if I didn't, them people would have been called and I would have been going to jail.
Yep.
I'm telling you that right now. I'm being dead honest. This ain't because I was at a space, man, where I couldn't. But when I did that, it really God helped me with putting certain things in and gave me the insight to put certain parameters in place so that I wouldn't make those, make those decisions. But in that brief interaction that you had with me, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm really finna jump on this. That brief interaction that you had with me was that's why I said in my transparency with that was I wasn't good, but it was by the grace of God that I didn't go over the ledge. Right. Like, bro, when you saw me, I was in a severe state of depression. Bro, I was battling suicidal ideations. Like if I didn't have Robert, I don't know what would have happened.
Right.
Because I had prayed to God that God, at least let me get my son. And I had my son. And the thing that broke me, this is what helped me. This is me being transparent. What broke me to help me say, okay, I need some help. I was sitting on the floor in the den, broke down, just crying. And my 3-year-old son come up on my side and said, "Daddy, it's going to be okay." Bro, that broke me. That I was like, bro, that ain't, I said, I can't, that's not his emotional, that's not his weight to carry at a 3-year-old, as a 3-year-old. So that led me to say, okay, look, man, I need help. And literally the next day I went in, bro, I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you. You saw me at work, right? I was a 25 Bravo SGL. I would come in. We had PT at 5:30. I dropped Robert off at 5. I go in for PT. My 25 Bravos at the time was taught by all contractors for that classroom period, and I taught the leadership portion towards the end of the class.
Right.
I used to go home after PT and sleep till like 1 o'clock. Then come back in around about 2. And then leave work. That's the only way I could function so that when Robert got home, I had strength. Because, bro, I didn't like, I'm just being honest. So that's why I've done the suicide awareness songs that I did. That's why I just recently recorded another one, because I can talk about it because I've been there. You know what I'm saying? And with that experience, what really led me to this is I had to learn to forgive myself in that situation. Because when I went through that divorce and went through all of that stuff, bro, I blamed myself for a whole bunch of stuff that had really nothing to do with me.
Right.
And I was blaming myself for being myself. Think about that, lad.
Right there. That's the weight that I'm carrying. Mike Tyson said something. He said, "This is the way I am." No, I think he said, yeah, this is the way I am, but I don't have to like it. And you may naturally find that this is just, you have a natural response to certain things. You don't have to like what that thing is, but recognize that that's who you are. And then not liking it. And now what are you going to do next? But I find myself analyzing situations, and my first emotional response is normally to be angry.
Yeah.
Not to think why. It's just, oh, you hit me. And it's like you have to learn you can't fully frontal assault everything. You can't have the same response to everything. Yes, that may be who you are. But you can't beat yourself up for thinking that way. But sometimes your thought process will result into a certain action. And so, my brother, I applaud you because you were able to, while in the middle of this, recognizing who you are and how it affects you, you still took care of your son. You and I both know people who been in similar situations and they just couldn't function. And that's not necessarily their fault, Sometimes it's just too much on their shoulders, but I credit you for being able to navigate that situation and provide all the basic needs for your child and be able to get yourself through it in a healthy way.
But I would say this though, that to continue on what you said was, there's a lot of people that suffer right now because their parents transferred that emotional baggage onto their kids. What really made me get up to deal with me is my 3-year-old son shouldn't have been on my side, on my shoulder, talking about it's going to be all right. Like, that wasn't for him to carry. And I say a lot of people have had to carry a lot of emotional things from the people, their loved ones, their mom, their dad, their things, or things that may have happened. And yet it may have happened to them, but it wasn't for you to carry. And now you're walking in so much discord, or you're walking in so much dysfunction now because you have chosen to carry something that is not for you to carry. And that's not to say a dangerous thing, but that's a scary thing to come to pass, because when we lay it down, the scary thing about laying that down is we feel if we lay it down, we're being disrespectful to the person that we love and hold dearly. But that's not for them to carry. I don't know, whoever is listening right now that's hearing that and you dealing with that, you may have dealt with that. Your parents unknowingly may have transferred that emotional weight onto you for you to help them carry. You have done it. It may have robbed you from your childhood. It may have robbed you from a lot of other things, but it's not your responsibility to carry that mantle. Put it down. Put it down. It's not disrespectful to them. They didn't try to do it. It wasn't a malice attempt to do that. They did it out of a necessity for them to try to get through that. I want you to lay it down as a necessity so that you won't continue to go around this cycle of dysfunction that you're trying to go through, and you're trying to figure out why your relationships ain't working. You're trying to figure out why is it hindering your relationship with your kids. You're trying to figure all of this stuff out, and it goes back to that point. So whoever it is that I'm talking to, I hope that this is resounding for you. I hope this is a revelatory for you. It's a revelation that is revealing to you that it is not your fault. It is not your responsibility. It is okay to put it down. And guess what? You putting it down is not disrespectful to the people that you love. But you got to do it for yourself. You got to do it for those that are close to you, because they need you. And I talk about a lot of stuff, and over the last year, and I've been talking about healing. But as I go back and I study the ministry of Jesus and in the New Testament, Jesus healed a lot of people. But the points, the stories that they have in the Bible, they talked about when he had an encounter with the woman at the well, when he had an encounter with the man at the pool of Bethesda, when the woman fought through the crowd to touch the hem of his garment. It was all acts that of them. Like, first of all, the woman at the garment, she got tired of being sick and tired. She exhausted all her resources. So she said, let me go at least be in his presence. The other two, the woman at the well and the man that had the issue of blood. I mean, the woman at the well and the man that was at the pool of Bethesda, he asked them, will you be made whole?
Right.
And that has led me to realize that it's our choice, man. It's our decision.
You're right. And we gotta be willing to take the right step. But see, we you know, not everybody, but some people, depending on your environment and how you came up, we get so hooked on surviving. You know,
yes.
And let's talk about what surviving is: sustaining yourself with as little as possible.
Yeah.
You know, that's surviving. But there comes a point in your life where you are able to thrive, where you have all kind of resources around you, but you so focused on surviving that you'll use this little bit of resources when you have all this light around you. And so I would encourage your listeners, your viewers, to start thriving and living. Just making it every day, dragging yourself along, that's not winning. That's not even living. That's surviving. I think God wants us to live in this life. It's times where things may get difficult, but it shouldn't always be that way. You got to be brave enough and allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to not only handle the bad, but to embrace the good and take it all in and really feed yourself off of that, because that's what will sustain you and build you up to make you strong enough to endure the next struggle that comes.
So I'm not airborne in the Army. I had a drill sergeant to partake some wisdom in me. He said, "Hey, Shep," he said, "you jumping out of a plane ain't got nothing to do with you knowing your job." So shout out to drill sergeant, first sergeant retired Brian Davis for imparting that wisdom. Because hey, look, I was gung ho. I wanted to put my airborne packet in. I was trying to do it all, but I'm glad my knees appreciate that right now. 20 years in the game. But I say that because the analogy I'm about to use is it's like when we choose not to forgive ourselves, it's like mentally we're running with a parachute on into a front wind. And we're mad because we're meeting so much resistance. And with that parachute on, that's survival mode.
Right.
But guess what? It's a quick release button that we can just take that parachute off. And that's learning, that's that freedom that comes from forgiving yourself. And a lot of times we got to release it. And one of the things I learned with this over a lot of things, there's been so many things in my life that I've spent years avoiding doing. Years. That you realize it only took 5 minutes to make it happen.
I need that insight.
No, I'm just saying, so no, like for real, like, and I'm just being honest. A lot of people struggle with financial management, with their credit and all this stuff, right? And they avoid it. They'll just try to avoid it. I'm gonna wait out them 7 years and let this out, right? But a lot of times it's just a phone call. It's maybe just a letter that you pay 50 cents for and mail off. Like that's those small things, and you realize like that's all it was. Or even working out, right? And it is a lot. It's the man. Look, that's why I love the Bible. The Bible said, "Be ye transformed. I beseech you, therefore, brothers, by the mercy of God, that you present your body a living sacrifice, which is holy and acceptable to Christ." He said, "And be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Man, Romans 12, 1 and 2. That is so powerful because I learned, man, our mindset's got to keep changing, bro.
Right.
Think about Lat when Lat was 21, where your mindset was.
I was a fool, but yeah, you got to change. What I think Martin Luther King said, a man who's the same at 50 that he was at 25, waits to have his life.
Yeah, I mean, but just and as I think about that, that's why I said a lot of people are not forgiving themselves because you feel like you should be further along in your life where you're at right now. And everybody can have that feeling.
That takes me to our conversation before the show. We may always, you always go back and you have the luxury of hindsight. Oh, if I would have done this might have happened, that might have happened. Perfect example. So when I first became affiliated with the military, it was in the year 2000 when I joined the National Guard. I wanted to go active, but I was 17 at the time, and my mom was like, "No, I'm not signing the paper to let you go, not let you go active, but you can go on the Guard." And so I found myself a couple years ago, like, man, if I'd have went, I think in 2020, I said, if I'd have left in 2020, if I'd have left in 2000, I'd be retired now, And then something hit, but you could be dead now too. You don't know what could have happened to you, And so you have to be able to be accepting of the circumstances that your decisions have led to, but also find the wisdom in those choices to not repeat them. And don't always go look back. What could have been might not have been better. It probably wasn't going to be. So one thing I don't do is I don't regret the path that I've taken. I may not have always made the right choices. I may have walked in circles a lot of times, but I don't regret the path because it's taking me somewhere. I know today I'm not in the same place I was 3 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. And yeah, you may not like walking uphill on this path so much, but maybe that uphill walk is going to help your legs get strong. So when you get on level ground, you can run.
So, man, I'll tell you, the grass may be greener, but it's greener because it's artificial turf and it got piss on it.
Right.
So,
we got more fertilizer on it.
Ain't no substance to it.
Yes,
But
sir.
man, I found myself thinking about that too, because I would have came in 98 out of high school, probably hitting 24 years now. But if I didn't go to college the path that I went, I wouldn't have been able to get. I'm gonna tell you how God worked. It's amazing how God worked. So with that whole, with me going to college, was God allowing me to do things what I wanted to do. Like I wasn't anti-military. But I wasn't joining the military. Like
I got you.
Like
I ain't doing that.
No, so like and it went like my granddaddy served, uncle was in. I had another uncle did reserve. I had two uncles that I had three uncles that served, right? When I looked at it, like in high school, you could take the ASVAB and get like a half day off. I'm like, I ain't even doing that. I ain't never joined it, right?
Right.
So I remember when I first got to college, got on academic probation. My dad was like, "Look, you need to do the military or something, bro." I got mad. I got mad at my dad. I was like, "I ain't doing no." I ain't said it like that.
Right.
I was like, "Man, I ain't doing no dumb military." Right. I'm not even. When I was in college, I was like, I ain't even taking ROTC class. I'm not even doing none of that.
Right.
God allowed me to have everything that I said that I wanted myself, for me to realize that none of that was going to be what He had for me to be. Like, so with that, I'm grateful that I made the decision that I made, because when I got to, I was in AIT, it was 13 of us that went to Fort Hood. I was the only one to go to 124th Signal Battalion. Everybody else went to either 13th Sig or 3rd Signal Brigade.
Mm-hmm.
When I got there, the week I got there, I met my son's mama. That's how Robert got here. Kind of see what I'm saying? And I look at everything, it was always a path in there, and I'm grateful for that decisions that led me to having the life that I have. Like you said before, I got a lot of regrets, a whole bunch of regrets, but I've learned not to dwell in those regrets, learn from them, take ownership of them, so that I don't repeat the process going down again. And that has helped me get to this point now. We've always going to look back, always can make, matter of fact, some choices that even had positive results, when we look back on them, we can realize we could have made a better choice. Bro, don't you think I wish I got on the Bitcoin?
Man.
Like, listen, like, for real, man. I'm like, or even when I came in, even an Apple stock, you know what I'm saying? Those type of things. But guess what? I'm at a position now, and I even thought about, like, man, what if I had went through ROTC? And I know people now that went. If I had went ROTC, I'd been lieutenant colonel right now in the military, right? But then I had to go back and look like, I appreciate my path. I appreciate my path from E1 to E7. Now I'm at a major. And guess what, lad? I'm comfortable with my abilities or whatever position that they put me in. So that journey has allowed me to fulfill that. And I appreciate, I really do appreciate that. And I'm appreciative of it. But in that process, I've learned to not dwell on decisions or things that was made in the past, take ownership of it, which allowed me the freedom of growing from where I was and making better decisions in the future.
That's wisdom, but that's also a level of mastery in life that I'm seeking to achieve, and I have it in a couple of areas. But I'm trying to expand my I'm trying to add some more of that mastery to my rucksack. Man, look, the master just come in, just doing my best to make decisions, daily decisions. You know, bro. Like, and this is the thing. Like, we tend to highlight the areas that we good at. Man, I would tell you, one of my Colonel retired Reed Hudgens was my battalion commander. When I got the brand new second lieutenant, when I got to Germany at 18 CSSB, and I'm going to meet, so I'm on the calendar to meet the battalion commander. So I'm in there, like, I got my I Love Me book, got all of my SOERs, everything ready to go, to top all this, that, and the third. I'm in there, boom, I can do this, that, and the third. Guess what he said? First thing he said, hey, welcome to the team. And he said, what are your top 3 weaknesses and what's your plan to do about it? Brother, you like, right. I was going to talk about what I was strong in. And I'm very appreciative of that interaction, because it showed me
the power of being introspective and looking at our weaknesses and identifying our weaknesses, while at the same time maintaining our strengths. But what are our weaknesses? And that really helped me grow professionally. And I'm appreciative of it. But I just, I really thank you, man, for coming on tonight, man, because I think this conversation was very helpful to a lot of people, because there's freedom in learning to forgive yourself. It's necessary. But first, in order to forgive yourself, you got to learn yourself. You got to learn you. And one of the hardest things about learning yourself, because I think we do need to touch on this, is we get caught up in surviving by fulfilling the titles or the roles that we have in our lives.
Amen to that.
We get caught up in surviving as a father, as a husband, on our job, all of these different organizations. We're surviving and we're laughing and we're doing all these things, but we don't even know what makes us happy. We don't even know the person that we like. What drives you? And then how can we expect other people to fulfill us in things about stuff we don't even know about ourselves?
We could talk another hour just on this topic alone, because that's another journey that I'm taking right now. I'll say this much: the positions that I've wanted to be in, the sexy ones, the ones that look great on paper, the ones that everybody says you should go get, whenever I've chased those, I've lost myself. The positions that I get put in that don't seem like they have a big impact are the ones that I feel the most comfortable in, because I feel like I end up having the most impact. So it's funny. I find myself when I'm where I'm happily serving where I'm supposed to be. But you're right. And again, I don't want to beleaguer this thing, but it's definitely a big deal when you have to take off all the titles. I'm no longer Sergeant Lassiter. I'm no longer daddy. I'm not a husband. I'm not a son. I'm just this man that's trying to figure out who he is, what he loves, what motivates him, what do I want to do with myself. That's such a thing, that's such a pie to have to eat. But maybe we got to come back another time.
Like that, yeah, definitely. But man, you hitting the nail on the head, man, because it's so much into that. And that's why I said, and I talked to you about it before the show, but on my album, y'all go check it out. Proverbs, you go look up Proverbs, the conversation. It's on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, all of that, right? But one of the songs is finally free. And I'm telling you about it. And I talked about the journey that it took me 41 years, and I'm 42. I just turned 42 in November. It took me 41 years to get to the place of me really starting to have a clue who Robert is. Not Shep, not daddy, not the officer, not minister, not this, who Robert is. What makes Robert tick? What Robert likes? What Robert actually wants to do? And once I started to break that down and started to deal with that, it made it a lot easier to forgive myself, because I have a sense of self.
Bingo.
And a lot of times we can't forgive ourselves because we don't even have a sense of self. And we're frustrated because we're frustrated our frustration is rooted in the ideal of who we want to be, not the reality of who we are. And I'll tell you, man, that's a frustrating place to be, but it takes that work to put that work in, to acknowledge. And a lot of this is, it's been such a joy, man, having my mom living with me up here in New York, because we're having conversations, bro, like real conversations. And it's powerful. I'm going to say this and we're going to close, man. You said about being where you're supposed to be, bro. Fort Drum was not on my list. Hey, listen, not a knock. I'm just being honest with you. It just, like, even out of the list of units that I had, and I think it was one unit that was Fort Drum, and I had it like ranked like number 45 out of 52.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I wanted to go back to Germany, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back to my old unit, Man, I love Germany. I ain't gonna lie, I had a blast in Germany. So I wanted to go back to Germany, interview, and everything was looking like up and up. And February rolled around and Branch called was like, hey, you on assignment to Fort Drum. And the first thing that happened when I heard that, I was like, I wasn't angry at all. I wasn't upset at all. I was like, okay, God, I got you. And I am more than grateful of where I am right now. In the position that I am right now, working with the people that I'm working with right now, is because it's challenging me to get better as a soldier, it's challenging me to get better in my craft, but it's also giving me, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I'm appreciative of that. And I think that, and I can accept that too, because I know Robert now. Like, I know me.
Right.
And I think a lot of time is wasted because we spend so much time investing to the ideal of who we are instead of identifying the reality of who we are. And that reality of who we are ain't gonna always be pretty, bro. It's gonna be some stuff you look at and be like, yeah. But I'll tell you, man, you learn your triggers, you learn what motivates you, you learn your why, and that makes it a whole lot better. And those that are closest to you really would appreciate it. But man, I'm gonna have you back. I'm gonna have you back real soon, man. I think the chemistry is real, always been good. But what I appreciate, the thing I appreciated about you always is you have always been authentically you from day one. From day one, like it wasn't no. You've always been authentic. It's never been like, oh man, this, side eye. No, you've always been that. And I appreciate that because that's how I personally, that's my energy.
Right.
I don't care, but I'm just gonna be authentically me. So man, thank you, man. So what you got planned, man? You got some big things planned?
I'm working on my own podcast. I'm working on it, and I'm close to a name. I'm working on somebody. I'm actually having a conversation about branding, and we talked earlier about equipment and cameras and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm working on this podcast. But I'm gonna put more out about it when it's a little more final. But I'm working on that, and also pray for me, y'all. The Master Sergeant Order of Merit list numbers comes out next week, and if I have a good number and able to get promoted, I'm gonna stay in the Army an additional year, past my 20-year mark. If I don't, then I'm retiring at 20. So next week I will find out my decision point. I will be there and I'll be ready to make a decision. So that's what's going on with me, man. I want to thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity, just always to have a conversation with you and to be a part of this awesome program that you have. And congratulations on 70 episodes.
70, man.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it. And can I do one quick shout out?
Yeah.
My friend Corlissa, who provided me with this T-shirt. Her company is called Rare. It's Remain Atypical and Redefine Elevation. Rare Wear. That's one name of our company.
Hey man, let me know the information. I definitely would support. Because like what you said, man. I had the idea and I'm going with it. I'm about to launch an apparel. Launch my own brand. Divine Joy Apparels. So that's in the work right now.
Can't wait to support.
Yeah, Divine Joy Apparel, man. Just been sitting on a lot of stuff for a long time. But I guess I had to learn myself before I really put it forward. That's gonna be that. Got some other things that's recorded, some more Army theme music. So I'm excited about that. Got some buzz going with that. Got another idea for some more music. So maybe getting back in the lab soon, record another album. Man, I'm about to 2022 gonna be a year, man. I just put the action in a lot of ideas that I had. Because I don't know how long I got here, and I want to exhaust everything that I have in me when my time comes. I don't want to leave nothing
behind.
nothing behind. Really excited. My baby girl is the lead actress in a play.
Okay, congratulations.
Yep, coming up, and Robert graduates this year. Bro, he turned 18 in March. That's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. You remember, seriously, he was in diapers. You know what I'm saying? But look at Sam. Sam,
my daughter's 16. She's a junior in high school. I'm like yesterday we was at Fort Riley taking my wife to the hospital to have her. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And now she's 16 and driving. It's like, what?
You know what? Speaking of that, you was there. I know you know that, but when I went back to Raleigh last year, I was like, dang, Irvin, they built the whole new hospital. And I'm like, God dog. I was but that's what Robert was doing.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, apples and oranges. But man, thank you so much. Hey, I want to thank everybody. More information will be coming out by the apparels. I got some real good stuff coming up. Just looking to do big things. I would tell you, it will be done in excellence. It will be done in excellence. Now, got some other things cooking up music wise, man. I'm about to grow this thing, man, and get it going. So, thanks you, man. Send love to the family. Enjoy your warm weather out there in Arizona. I'm gonna enjoy this. Let me see what it dropped to. Since we've been on the phone, it's a -9 degrees outside. And we can go do that. But
I'll wait for you, brother.
But hey, I just want to say thank everybody for real. More information will be coming out. And you guys have a blessed and wonderful evening. God bless.